In Shushan Purim, we continue in the Torah portion of Tzav, the second portion of the book of Vayikra, the third book. We're chapter 6, verse 12. Have it? Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemar, and Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Zeh korban Arain, this is the offering of Arain, Ovanav and his sons, Asher Yakrivu Hashem, that they shall offer to Hashem. V'yom Yimashech Hosei, on the day when they are anointed, Asir Se'ifa Seilas Mincha. So on the day that they're anointed, they have to bring 1/10 of an ephah, a fine flour of Seilas Mincha, a fine flour, tamid, a perpetual offering, and half of it you bring in the morning, and half of it you bring in the evening. Let's see, Rashi, what is this the reference to over here? Verse 13. This is the offering of Aaron and his sons. Afa Hedres in other words, this is for a common, regular kohen. Right? Makrivim Masir Seifa, they offer 1/10 of an ephah of flour as for a meal offering. 1/10 of an ephah. Trying to remember now the amount of what that is. Vayim Shehem is Chanchim La'Avodah, on the day that they become initiated for the temple service. In other words, this is for all Kohanim, right? And because all Kohanim, who do they come from? Aaron and his sons. So for all future generations, when a Kohen will be now initiated into the temple service, so this is what he needs to bring as an offering. Aval Kohen Gadol l'chol yom. But a Kohen Gadol, he brings this offering every single day, the meal offering. Shenemar mincha tamid, a meal offering, continual meal offering. We had that in last week's Torah portion. And the Kohen from among his sons who was anointed in his place for an eternal decree. Now there's a Kohen Gadol who is appointed after from if it goes down the family line initially, brings this as a daily offering. Okay.
So the regular Cohen brings it only when he's inaugurated.
Exactly.
1 time or twice.
Well, 2 times in the morning and the afternoon. Like, yeah.
Does that every single day.
Exactly. So okay, now so it continues and says al machvas. So it's machvas is a shallow pan, right? There are different types of we had in last week's Torah portion 4 different ways that you can bring this meal offering, right? You can the shallow, well, let's see. The shemen that has oil in it. Ta'aseh, you shall make it. Murvekis tiviena. So it's a shallow pan. So it's like, when you just want to, what's the word? Oh, I forgot the word. No, fry something in a deeper pan, right? Like a crepe. You just want to kind of, it's almost like scalding it, right? You're just giving it like a tough exterior as opposed to being fried through and through. Okay.
So very shallow.
Yeah, it's very shallow. So it's a shallow pan, little, there it is, scalded. Okay, it says there. To fena minchas pitim takriv reach nechayich l'Hashem. So pitim, pita, right? A meal offering of broken pieces. Pitim means broken pieces. Takriv, and this will be a pleasing fragrance to Hashem. Rashi in 14, murvekis chalutim bereischim. It's scalded with boiling water, kol tzarka, all that it needs. Interesting. You know what's scolded with well, no, actually it's second. Right. So initially I thought it was with oil because it sounds like from the verse, right? But it's made with, in other words, the flour is made together with the oil, so it becomes, into, if it's just flour, obviously with nothing, then you're going to get nothing from it, right? It's not going to congeal, it's not going to come together. So then it's boiled in water first, right? Like a bagel, right? Bagels are boiled in water first, right? Except that this is Pesach dik. To fine, repeated baking, afuya afiyos harbe, baking after baking, me'acha chalitosa, after it's scalded, then it's baked in the oven. Chayzer umitagne be'machas, and then it's fried in the pan. So it's three things happening over here. First, it's boiled in water, then it's put into an oven, and then it's fried on a pan. Very interesting. Minchas pitim, a meal offering of pieces. Malamed shetuuna pisisa. This teaches us it needs to be crumbled. Loib pisisa mav, not actual crumbled. Bitziirim purim, like pieces and crumbs. If he she'ena nikmetzes, since it's not subject to scooping, right? If it was, he was sometimes the kohen would take, right, and he would scoop, right, with his three fingers and take from there, right? That's when it was just oil and water. He would do that. But after this process, so there was no, it was not able to do that. It wasn't meant to be done. It wasn't meant to be done that way, right? Sorry?
Well, I just meant like it's like it would crack at this, like it's not like a porous substance where he could like break his fingers.
Exactly. Ela kaiflim lishnayim. Rather, it folds it into two. Then it folds it into four. Shasivera, vertically and horizontally. Ve'ena mavdil. He does not separate it into pieces. Ve'chein makdil leishim. And so he makes it go up in smoke on the mizbeach. Fires. So I guess the way I'm understanding it over here is means that he's making it into pieces because he's folding it over, doubling it over, and therefore that's what it means into pieces. Right? Not that you're separating it though. Okay. Uh, Not exactly clear how you get this out of here. How you see that in the verse. Okay, V'alkeina Mashiach tachtav mibonav Yasa Isa Chok Elam Hashem Kol Taktir. And the Kohen Hamashiach, who's Kohen Hamashiach? The anointed one, right? Mashiach is an anointed one. Tachtav, who is in his stead, mibonav, from his sons. Yasa Isa, he should do it. Chok Elam, as an eternal statute. La Hashem for Hashem Kol Taktir, and it should be completely burnt for the sake of Hashem. Rashi, Mashiach tachtav mibonim, Mashiach mibonav tachtav should be understood as the Kohen who is anointed from among his sons instead of him. One second. So, if the Kohen Gadol dies and his successor has not been appointed, his son brings a daily meal offering of the Kohen Gadol.
So another one is appointed.
Yeah.
So the Kohen Agadol wasn't like hereditary on people?
One second. Good question. That so that's what the Talmud is saying. Rashi, our verse is not speaking which a kohen dal, and it is stating that the general a kohen from among the of Aaron's son who was anointed is in his stead shall perform the service of the daily meal offering. Mm. So Rashi's not learning it as the Talmud is learning it. So remember, Rashi is a simple explanation. So Rashi is coming to say, no, it is the Kohen who was anointed from among his sons. But it's not when the Kohen Gadol dies, and therefore the son will be the one who or will take over. But the Kohen from among Aaron's sons who was anointed shall do this service daily. Remember, we just said that the Kohen Gadol does this daily. Yeah. So that's what this verse is coming to say. Okay. In other words, there's the eternal statute that the Kohen Gadol does this on a daily basis. Okay. Next part of Rashi, kolel taktir, that he shall cause it up to go up in smoke in its entirety. Kolel means entirety. Einik metzes. It's not scooped. Liyoich sharean neacholim. So by the regular mincha, right? They would scoop, put that part onto the mizbeach, and the rest was eaten by the kohanim. But here, no, that's not the case. This whole thing was put onto the altar. It is kolil, means the whole thing is consumed. Allah kolil kula, but the entirety is burnt up, and likewise.
So the Cohens would do it one way, and then the Kohen Gadol would do it another way.
We're talking about the Kohen Gadol's daily offering, right? As opposed to what the Kohen would bring as a mincha offering that was not his mincha offering on the daily basis, because that was not is in a further. No, even the inauguration was not done this way. I'm talking about what we learned last week.
Yeah.
Here it didn't speak anything about taking with your fingers at all. Not in the first instance either when they were inaugurated, right? It didn't say that either. Just what we learned last week that there was that of you were bringing a mincha offering and part of it goes onto the altar. But the inauguration one or the daily one by the Kohen Gadol was all on the altar. Okay, 15. 16 rather. And every meal offering of a kohen shall be completely burned, it shall not be in kalil, kulei, shava, legavoya. All of it is offered unto God. Not exactly clear what that is meant to mean, because it says all minchas offering. It's not that way though. No, I'm not clear what Rashi is saying. Okay, V'daber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, and Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Daber el Aaron, speak to Aaron, el Banav, and to his sons, Lemor, saying, Zois Teiras, this is the Torah. In other words, this is the law, right? Achatas of a sin offering. V'malkam Hashem tishchat ha'oila, and it's to be slaughtered in the place where you slaughtered the oila. Yeah, anybody know where the burnt offering is slaughtered? The northern side of the Mishkan or the temple, right? You shall slaughter the same place where the oila, the burnt offering, is slaughtered. That's where the sin offering also suddenly which is before God. Kodesh Kadashim, who he. It is a holy of holies, meaning it's not in the Holy of Holies, and it means it's got the categorized level of a most holy form of offering. And since it's the most holy form of offering, that's why it has to be in the northern side, as opposed to other things that could be anywhere could be slaughtered. Because remember, who could slaughter an animal? You recall? Anybody could. Yeah, any Israelite. The Kohen, his job only begins with the blood, taking the blood from it and bringing that to the altar. Now, Kohen mechata oisa, and the Kohen who is offering it, Yochlena, he shall eat from it, but Mokim Kaddish, in a holy place, Te'achil, he shall eat, which is in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. Right? This is a sin offering, so the Kohen gets a part of it. Right? We just spoke about a meal offering where he doesn't have anything, right, in the inauguration or the Kohen Gadol on the daily basis. But here, Korban Chatas, he gets parts of it. So Rashi in 19, Hamechata Isa, makes it into a sin offering. Hamechata, it's word hate there, right? Which means sin. The mem in front of it means it's a verb. He's doing something. He's making something. He's making sin, meaning he's making the sin offering, right? Now, what does it mean he's making? How's he making a sin offering? Because he performs its service. Because it becomes a sin offering through his agency, through his work, right? Right, from the blood that's sprinkled onwards, right? That we learned already. So the one who makes the sin offering may eat from it. The one who is fit for the service, which excludes someone who's impure, because he's not fit for the service, that kohen that's impure. And that is the time of the sprinkling of blood, because that's what makes it into the sin offering in its completion. That he doesn't take a portion of the meat of the offering, unless he is fit for doing the offering. And when does he have to be fit? By the time of sprinkling the blood, because that's when the kohen starts the service. And it's not possible to say, so you might think that this verse is coming to say that the one who's doing the offering, right, he gets to eat from it, but other kohanim that didn't actually sprinkle, right? So if you sprinkled it, you get to eat from it. Because the verse is saying, because it says a mechata, the one who's making the sin offering. So it sounds like the one who's actually doing the sprinkling, right? Because that's where right? So it says, no, you can't say that. Sharei Nemar Lamata, because later on it says in verse 22, we're in verse 20 right now, we're in verse 19 rather, but in verse 22 it says, Kol Zachar that every male among the Kohanim may eat from it. So we see later, so it doesn't mean that the one who specifically did this, but any kohen that is pure. So that's what so Rashi is bothered because the verse says Amechata Isa Yachlena, the one who's making the chatas can eat from it. But later on it says Kol Zachar in 3 verses is going to say every male can eat from it. So which one is it?
Yeah.
So what is it? So Rashi is saying it means every kohen, obviously, because the verse says that explicitly. So what does it mean over here, mechata then? So it means anybody that's fit to make this sin offering. Okay. What does that mean? You can't be impure kohen, because then you're not fit. That's what the verse is coming to say. Got it?
Yeah.
20.
Sorry, why would a Kohen be there impure?
Why?
He couldn't be there.
I mean, one second. The fact that he is there impure, first of all, maybe he doesn't know. Let's say he only finds out afterwards. We learned that, right? We learned that in last week, if you recall, right? We learned that in an instance where nelam mimeno, it says behelam, right? It was hidden from him and then it became known to him, right? Right? Or he forgot, right? So now the question is, so you transgress something, right? But does that mean I can't eat from the meat? Two separate things. They're two separate things. So we know that you're not supposed to do that. But does that mean now I can't eat from the meat or not? So here we have a clear verse that's saying you can't eat from it, right? Because last week when we spoke about it, it just spoke about that you can't do the service. But does that mean now that if you mistakenly did the service, inadvertently, let's say, it was inadvertent, does it mean I can't eat from it? So here it's telling us you can't eat because that we didn't have before. Good question. Thank you. Okay. Anybody who touches its flesh should become holy. Right? Midama, and anyone who sprinkles its blood, ala beged asher yaze aleh tikabes b'makom kodesh. The area of the garment which you sprinkled and it got onto your garment. You're sprinkling and it got onto your garment as a kohen, right? So that needs to be washed in a holy place. B'makom kodesh. Let's see what is this talking about. Rashi. In 20, Kol asher yiga ben b'sara, any kohen is going to touch its flesh, right? Kol davar oichel, any food, asher yiga v'yivla v'mena, that you will touch and absorb it. Now the verse could have said anything that you touch it, but it says touch its flesh to imply contact with in a more superficial manner. Yikta shall become holy, liyos kamayu, to be like it. Impsula, if the sin offering is invalid, tiposo, and which absorbs that which absorbs of it becomes invalid. Vihim kshera, and if the sin offering is valid, te'achal kechaymer sheba, it shall be eaten with the stringency of the sin offering. Okay. Asher yiza midama ala begin. So this means if someone shehuza midama, that if it will be sprinkled from its blood, ala beged, on the garment, oisa makom adam, the place of the blood, sheba beged, that's on the garment, asher yiza aleha, which will be sprinkled, techabis, he shall launder it, v'seicha azara, inside the courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. Right, that's what the verse is saying. Needs to be done. Please. No battery. Okay. There we go.
So now you have to clean it in the courtyard.
In the courtyard. Interesting. The Kohanim air their dirty laundry in a holy place.
No
Wow. How significant. I have to go to the laundromat today. From all the tablecloths we have to go and bring. That which will be sprinkled, that will be sprinkled. Minolam, similar to the fulfillment of the stuff on the ground, okay. I'm just showing an example of it. Okay, so air your dirty laundry in a holy courtyard. But it's holy laundry. All right. An earthenware vessel which is cooked, in which it is cooked, it should be broken. And any cooked in the copper vessel, it can be purged and rinsed with water. One second. So you can clean your clothes See Rashi. Okay, Yishaver. It should be broken. Okay. So lifli shablias, because there's an absorption into the vessel, shenivlas boy, that's absorbed with meat juices, right? So there's meat with fat and juice and blood. That's just, and it becomes absorbed. That's is nicer. It becomes nicer, meaning because if it was left over the time period which you cannot eat, it becomes forbidden. You can't have any benefit from it. And the juices are absorbed in an earthenware vessel. Remember, we're speaking here about a korban chatas. A korban chatas, kohanim can eat from it, right? What if it was left in the vessel beyond the time period? Right? Remember, it's some of it is his, right? So now he gets it and he puts it into a vessel, it's cooked, right? It's in the vessel. It gets absorbed into the earthenware vessel. Earthenware vessel, the law is you have to, right? As we know, we kashered earthenware vessel. You have to break it. You get, in other words, it's destroyed, right? If it's in a metal vessel here, a copper, so then you could purge it. You could take boiling hot water and purge it, right? And that's what the verse is talking about. The same law applies for all absorbing juices and sin offerings that for the holies and other holy offerings. Mayrak next Rashi, it should be scoured. Lashon tamruki anashim, cosmetics of women. In Old French, escure. Morak v'shutav, it should be scoured and rinsed. Leaflight is also in order to expel anything that was absorbed in the walls of the vessel. But when it comes to earthenware vessel, here the verse is coming to teach us that it will never leave the walls of the vessel. It does not rid itself of that which is inside of it, and therefore has to be broken. Huh? Yeah. Okay, verse 22. Remember we mentioned this, Rashi mentioned before, or I mentioned, Rashi didn't, right? All the Kohanim, they shall eat from it. Eat from what? What are we talking about?
The offering.
Which one?
The Harzan.
The Chatas offering, the sin offering, right? The Chatas offering, eat from it. Kodesh Kadashim, he. It is Holy of Holies, right? In other words, it's the highest level. Holy of Holies doesn't mean in the place of the Holy of Holies. It means it's got a category of the holiest form of offering. Rashi in 22, every male Kohen shall eat from it. From here you learn that when it said previously in verse 19, the one who makes the sin offering, Omer Lamaila that mentioned earlier, doesn't mean to exclude other Kohanim. It means someone who's not fit to bring the sin offering. So Rashi kind of explains it here. Interesting. Okay, 23. We're good? Good. We're only going to get better. And any sin offering that you bring of its blood, to the tent of meeting, in order to become atoned in the holy, you shall not, it should not be eaten, it should be burnt in a fire. Okay, let's see Rashi. What is this referring to? Kol chatas, any sin offering, that if he brought some of the blood of an exterior sin offering to the inside of the Mishkan or the Beis Hamikdash, psula, it's invalid. The blood of the sin offering uh-huh, of a regular the sin of the blood of the sin offering of a regular person. Where is that blood brought? On the outer altar. And if it was brought into the sanctuary, it's invalid. Got it? It's invalid if you brought it in. That's what this verse is saying.
But by invalid, it means that it has to you have to get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah. The whole and any l'rabba shar kochim and the first other holy offerings. Yeah, because this is being brought by a regular person, right? So we actually learned that last week about the sin offering, and right, so that's brought on the altar, because there is some that we spoke last week that's brought into the holies, but that's only when the koyens, if I recall. Okay, chapter 7, verse number 1. So we finished with the sin offering, right? This is the law of a guilt offering. It's also on the level of Holy of Holies. So what's the difference between a sin offering and a guilt offering?
Isn't one compulsory, like you have to do it, and the other one is you choose to do it?
So what we learned till now was a sin offering is certainly a sin that you did. And what kind of sin? Inadvertent, remember, because if you did it willfully, you can't bring a sacrifice. It's only when you did it inadvertently, right? Not meaning to. So here, guilt offering is that you're not certain that you've sinned. May have. So there's some guilt. That's right. All right. Let's see Rashi. So he calls a Kodesh Kadashim who Karben Bein Tmurase Kreva. So what does it mean it's holy of holies? It shall be sacrificed, but the animal substitute for it may not be sacrificed. All right. Rather, it remains in pasture until it becomes effective and then is redeemed. Because it says, Kodesh Kadashim who means it. It is. So it is holy, but not its exchange. Right? So if you wanted to substitute, there's a whole laws about substituting it. You set aside a sacrifice to bring as a guilt offering. Then you want to substitute it for whatever reason, right? So since it was holy, its substitute will not be holy. What happens to substitute? Well, it can't be sacrificed, but it does have some holiness in it because you deemed it. So therefore, it has to go to pasture until there's a defect, because it's got holiness. Now that it's got a defect, you no longer can be used as an offering, and then you have to buy it back, redeem it. Okay, got it?
Yeah.
Verse number 2. In the place that you slaughter the oila, the burnt offering, yishchatu is asham. There also the asham is slaughtered, right? Where's that? The northern side. And its blood shall be dashed on the altar all around. Let's see Rashi. Into yishchetu. Riba lana shchitas harbe. This verse includes many slaughterings. Since we found the guilt offering brought in the public. It says they shall slaughter. Rabim, plural. And the Torah made it depend on oil offering, saying that it's in the same location as the burnt offering as the guilt offering, right? This include the oil offering of the public to slaughter in the north side. The Torah told us about, it says they shall be slaughtered. Well, why they? Who's the they here? We're only talking about one offering, a guilt offering. So why they? Yeah. So Rashi's saying it's coming to include also when you bring a burnt offering that is for the public. We learned about a burnt offering at the beginning of Parshas Vayikra last week. There was an individual personal offering, right? Now the public offering is also got this category of being holy, right? Because it's speaking here about oila yishchetu. The oila they shall be slaughtered. Well, we already know about the oila that's slaughtered individual, but we don't know about the public offering of the oila is also slaughtered in a holy place, meaning on the northern part of the Mishkan or the Beis Hamikdash. And now this verse is coming to incorporate that too. Is that clear? You guys are amazing.
But those public offerings were they brought, they were just left on the outer altar, like the most outer altar.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, all sacrifices.
Yeah.
The only incense is brought on the inner altar. Now, some blood is brought on the inner altar. Not the inner altar, on the inner altar. We had but that was when it was a public mistake the Sanhedrin or the Kohen Gadol, because of that, people, the public made a mistake collectively. Yeah. So then there was on the corners of the altar, of the inner altar, right? Yeah. And on the rest of it was poured on the outside, right? That was last week. We're good. Okay, let's go quickly so we can finish off. This called Chelba Yakriv Memenu, and all of its fat you should offer from it, from the guilt offering. It's the Aliyah, the tail. There's a Chelev and the fat. Mechas is a Kerev that's covering on the innards. Rashi in 3. It's called Chelba, all of its fat. Adkan, until this point, Lo Nisparshu Emurim Ba'asham. We did not specify the parts that need to be burnt on the altar regarding the guilt offering. What specifically? Right? Therefore, the Torah needed to be explicit over here. But regarding a sin offering, that was already specified. The Parshas Vayikra, last week's Torah portion. There's aliyah and the fat tail. The fisha asham enaba ella ayel v'kesef keves. Because the guilt offering is only brought from a ram and a sheep. And a ram and a sheep have been increased in a fat tail. In other words, as opposed to a goat doesn't have a fatty tail, but a ram and a sheep does. Okay. And the two kidneys. There's a chelev and the fat, asher aleim, that is upon it, on the kidneys, right? There's called ksolim, and the flanks. There's a yeseris and the diaphragm, ala kavi, that is with the liver, ala klayas yisirenu, and the kidneys you shall remove it. Okay, verse 5. And a kohen shall cause him to go up and smoke on the altar as a fire offering to Hashem. It is a guilt offering. Rashi. It is, right? It's being very definitive over here. It is a guilt offering, right? Rashi, it is a guilt offering. Ad mimenu, until its name is disconnected from it. Limed al asham shemesa ba'alav. This teaches the guilt offering whose owner had died. Before his offering is brought, so it's not offered. It's sent out to pasture and remains there until it develops a blemish and disqualifies it from the altar. And then the animal is sold and proceeds are used to purchase oil offerings.
Wait, so it's allowed to like age or deteriorate to the point it gets a blemish, and then it's
sold.
yeah, but the profits from that have to go to an offering.
Right. Yeah. So until it's so again, this teaches us that whoever brought that guilt offering and the owner of that animal died, or shin is kapra ba'alav, or you attain atonement through the offering of another animal. Let's say the guilt offering was lost, another animal was uh, put in its place, and then you found that animal. Right? Even though he stands, to have his money, meaning the money gained through its sale, used for an oil offering. For the desert of the Mizbeach. If it was slaughtered with no specific intent, it's not valid for an oila. Before it being disconnected from the status of guilt offering. לפי שאשם לא נאמר בוי אשם הוא, אלא לאחר הקטורת האמורים, הוא עצמי. I have to go back on that. Okay, verse number 6. Kol zachar bal kahanim yachlenu, all male kahanim shall eat from it. The Malkum Kaddish, in a holy place, yechol, it should be eaten. Kaddish Kadashim hu, it is holy of holies. Kaddish Kadashim hu, but Teres Kahanim, hu nidrash. And in the Midrash, it expounds on it. Kechatzes ka'asham teira achas lehem, hakayin, asher yechaper boy, lo yiyeh. So like a sin offering, so is the guilt offering, that they have one law, the kohen who affects the atonement through it, to him it shall belong. Yichap, sheyichaper lo yiyeh. Rashi teres achas lehem, regarding this matter, kohen asher yechaper boy, and the kohen, a kohen who is fit to make atonement can share in it. So that excludes someone who immersed himself that day, right? But you only become pure by nighttime. So during that day, he cannot partake in this, right? That's one kind of person. One who's lacking atonement did not yet bring his sacrifice on that day after his immersion in the mikveh. So he doesn't have full atonement, so he can't. Like a Mitzvah or a Zav, and one who's a close relative died on that day, was also disqualified from performing the sacrifice. Okay. 8. Ish or ha'ela asher hikri l'kohen yeloi, and the kohen who offers the burnt offering. Now we're going to a burnt offering. The skin of that burnt offering, right? The whole thing is burnt except for the skin. The skin, right? That skin belongs to the kohen. It is his. This excludes someone again. So this excludes someone immersed that day and still needs to wait for nighttime, or someone who's lacking atonement because he needs to bring a sacrifice, or a close relative who died that day and you have to mourn for them, right? So those people are not fitting to get the skin from the oila. And any meal offering. Now we're going from one thing to the other. We're kind of skipping around, right? A meal offering baked in an oven, Tefena be'achol lo yinaseh marcheshes or al-machvus zakein makim v'yisol lo yisiyah. So anyone who's made on a deep pan, right? That's a marcheshes, or machvas is a shallow pan, which we had earlier, right? The kohen who offers it, lo yisiyah, it's his. Right, so we're going now to the different sacrifices and what the kohen gets, right? So Rashi, the kohen, yochol hulavadi, you might think that it belongs to him only. To all of the sons of Aaron, right? So yochol, you might think to all of them, but then it says to the so is it to all the kohanim? One place says all the kohanim, another place it says the one who brought it. Here it says, right? Like it says it. So, exactly. So now it's interesting. So you have to see the distinction. So he says the base of shel yom makriv v'isam. So in this offering of the meal offering, it is the base of means that group that's in there now.
Yeah.
That group, they're the ones. Okay. Last verse. Kol mincha b'lulav b'shemen, and any mincha that is mixed with oil, chareva, or dry, and they shall belong to all the sons of Aaron, like one like the other. This is a voluntary donation of a meal offering. Why is this dry? Right, it's called a meal offering that's dry. Why? Because this is the meal offering of the husband who's jealous of his wife, who's or zealous of his wife, that was privately, after he warned her, don't be private with this man, right? So that's the soita, right? Suspect adulterer. So it's dry because there's no oil added to it. That's why it's dry. Okay. Wow.